this drunk guy goes into the bar at the Four Seasons, and he pulls out this bag, and he pulls out this piano, and this frog and this mouse, and the mouse starts playing the piano with his little paws, and the frog starts singing, and the guy is completely flabbergasted by this, and he said, and everybody's sort of crowding around. He says, as long as you do that, you get free drinks. And so, the thing's going, and he's drinking, and a rich guy comes up and says, I'll give you $5,000 for the little performing act. He says, $5,000? No way. And I'm not going to do it for $5,000. I'll give you the frog for $10,000. And rich guy thinks about it, singing frog, $10,000. So he gives him $10,000, and he leaves, and the bartender says, you could have gotten a lot more for a singing frog. The guy says, frog's not worth nothing. Mouse is a ventriloquist. Are we ready? We're taping, in case you couldn't tell. My name is Bruce, and I am PETA's Vice President for Campaigns, which means that I'm in charge of the outrageous and silly stuff that caused many of your relatives to say, you're going to work where? We also try to do a lot of serious stuff in addition to the silliest stuff, but the serious stuff doesn't get quite as much coverage. I have been doing the presentation on veganism for PETA for about 11 and a half years. I did the vegan presentation at my new employee orientation because there wasn't anybody else to do it. When I was hired 11 and a half years ago, it was to run our vegetarian campaigns, and I was also working on vivisection at the same time. The campaign staff was pretty small at the time. I've been a vegan for a little over 20 years now. I went vegan in August of 1987. And because probably a lot of people here could speak more eloquently and know more facts about veganism than I do, I'm going to discuss veganism, vegetarianism in a nutshell. We use them synonymously, as most people here have probably noticed, by talking a little bit about how it was that I came to adopt a vegan diet originally, the issues that were most important to me. Veganism really is about taking Socrates seriously. Socrates said more than 2,500 years ago that the unexamined life is not worth living. And veganism is about challenging ourselves to lead an examined life. There are probably as many reasons to adopt a vegan diet as there are vegans, but I think they fall into four principal categories. People adopt a vegan diet for the environment, or they adopt a vegan diet because they care about human rights issues, or because they care about their health, and probably most people here who are vegetarians or vegans, they adopt a vegan diet because they care about animals. I adopted a vegan diet in 1987 after I read a book called Diet for a Small Planet by Frances Moore Lappé. And Lappé doesn't really like what she calls the V word, so she advocates a plant-based diet. And the argument is intuitive. It has to do with environmentalism. 20 years ago, I was starting college, a small liberal arts school in the cornfields of Iowa called Grinnell College. And at Grinnell, everybody showed up a week early their first year so they could figure out what classes they wanted to take, where the various classrooms were, what extracurricular activities they wanted to participate in. So I showed up a week early and decided, as I had in high school, that I was interested in environmentalism and in human rights causes. And I joined a group called Poverty Action Now, another group called Latin American Support Organization, which was looking at U.S. policy in Central and South America. And what was true then, and is even more true now, is that the people at Grinnell who ran the human rights groups and the environmental group, they were vegetarians and they were vegans for environmental reasons. This one makes basic intuitive sense. I weigh about little over 190 pounds. If I do nothing but lay in bed all day watching Jerry Springer reruns, I'm going to burn about 2,000 calories a day. Except when I'm going, Jerry, 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 then it ticks up a little bit when I get excited about what's happening on the screen. That's true of other animals as well. Not that they have the bad taste to watch Jerry Springer reruns, but that the vast majority of the caloric input into a chicken or a pig or a cow the vast majority the animal expends simply existing. So that it takes about 20 calories into a chicken or a pig or a cow to get 1 calorie back out in the form of flesh, which is why the vast majority in the United States of our agricultural land is devoted to growing feed crops. The corn, the wheat, the soy, the oats, the vast majority of all of these crops are not grown to feed to human beings, they're grown to feed to chickens and pigs and cattle. So that it's basically, it's like if you went to your refrigerator and you opened up your refrigerator and you took out 19 plates of pasta and you dumped them in the trash, and then you ate one plate of pasta. And that's the equivalent of what we're doing each time we choose to eat animal flesh. We're choosing to eat something that's about a 20th as efficient as choosing to eat a vegan food. For dairy and eggs, it's the same basic, it's the same basic principle, except that it takes 4 to 8 calories into a dairy cow or an egg-laying hen. Again, the vast majority of the calories that you feed to that animal, the vast majority go into that animal simply existing. And only 1/4 to 1/8 goes into, calorically speaking, creating dairy products or eggs for us to eat. And once you crunch all of the numbers, you end up with, it takes about 20 times as many fossil fuels to get animal protein, well, to get animal calories as opposed to vegan calories. It takes about 14 times as much water. It takes about 25 times as much land. And that's just the calories in, calories out equation. It's actually quite a bit worse than this, because you also have to think about all of the extra stages of production that are involved in getting animal products to the table that aren't involved in getting vegan products to the table. So you think about it, eating a vegan diet is still resource intensive, right? You still have to grow the crops, you have to fertilize the crops, you have to run the combine over the crops, you have to ship the crops to the, turn it into whatever it is you're going to eat, gas-guzzling, pollution-spewing vehicles. Eating a vegan diet, eating anything, is going to be resource intensive and it's going to be polluting. But you have to do all of that to get meat or dairy or eggs. That's just the feed crop, except you have about 4 extra stages of pollution-spewing, resource-intensive production that are not required for a vegan diet. So you still have to grow the crops, but now you're shipping the crops to a feed mill on gas-guzzling, pollution-spewing vehicles. Then you have to operate the feed mill, which is a stage that doesn't exist for a vegan diet. Then you have to ship the feed to the factory farm, and you have to operate the factory farm. Then you have to ship the animals to the slaughterhouse. You have to operate the slaughterhouse. About 4 times as many gas-guzzling, pollution-spewing, resource-intensive steps to get animal products to the table that don't exist to get vegan products to the table. United Nations scientists did, well, everybody who cares about the environment a great service. In November of 2006, so a little over a year ago, they released a report where they crunched all the numbers. They looked at everything that I've just been talking about. They released a 408-page document called Livestock's Long Shadow, looking at the impact of funneling crops through animals so that we can eat animals. And what they found is that eating meat is, quote, one of the most significant contributors to the most serious environmental problems at every scale, from local to global. And that, in fact, the meat industry contributes to problems of land degradation, climate change and air pollution, water shortage and water pollution, and loss of biodiversity. And on the cause célèbre of the environmental community today, the issue of global warming, eating meat is the #1 cause of global warming. And in fact, it causes 40% more global warming, almost half again as much, as all transportation combined. You take all air travel, all truck travel, all car travel, all jets, all everything, and eating meat causes 40% more global warming than all of that combined. It's far and away, us as individuals, if we eat meat, it would be far and away the single greatest contributor from each of us to global warming.